I believe we have our moderators already online. People.
So yeah, Temitope.
Yes, I am.
Yeah, okay. So Debo was on, but she's still on, but she
Yeah, I just sent her a private message to know if we were waiting for. Okay, Kaushini is here as well. Okay.
Welcome, welcome, Dr. Folake, Pastor Georgiana, and Mr. Temitope. We'll just give a couple of minutes for others to join, if you don't mind. Thank you for joining.
You're welcome.
We'll give 4 more minutes. Yes. With the weather outside, people are still sleeping.
Yeah, surprised to see all the snow this morning.
Again, it's still not. I still think it's still a good winter compared to the previous years. No, this is better.
I think it depends. Like there were some terrible ones at Christmas though. I wasn't here, but
Mhm.
I heard it
Right.
was really cold.
Yeah. No.
Yeah,
Yeah. The Christmas period was about the only time that I had,
that's
some
true.
significant. Yeah.
I thought we were getting done with winter.
I know. Then I woke up this morning, I saw this one. I was like, what? What's going on?
Okay, we are going to begin. Thank you once more, everyone, for joining. Root House is a community-based organization here in Calgary dedicated to supporting individuals and families experiencing family violence. We provide safe shelter, culturally responsive programs, and holistic support to help families heal, restore dignity, and break the cycle of abuse in our communities. As a part of our program today is a community conversation, and the topic for today's discussion is impact of domestic violence on women. We have 3 guest speakers, and I'll introduce them all. We have the honor to invite Dr. Folake People. Dr. Folake is a family physician with expertise in dermatology and aesthetic medicine, and a clinical trainer with the Canadian Board of Aesthetic Medicine. She has over 10 years of experience as an advanced injector and is passionate about helping patients achieve healthy, youthful skin and greater confidence as the age.
I'm in the meeting. Yeah.
Dr. Folake has
Pastor D.
practiced medicine since 1998 and holds a diploma in practical dermatology with distinction from Queen Mary University in London. She's also a member of the Canadian Association of Aesthetic Medicine and remains committed to continually advancing her skills in aesthetic treatment. The second speaker we have is Pastor Georgina. Pastor Georgina is a registered psychologist in clinical and forensic psychology in Alberta and a member of the Psychologists Association of Alberta with over 20 years experience working across 3 continents. She has served as a teacher, addiction counselor, clinician, and psychologist. She works with children, youths, adults, and families, specializing in clinical assessment, parenting, addiction, trauma, and a wide range of mental health concerns. She's also the author of the parenting book, 110 Nuggets for Excellent Parenting, and she is passionate about helping individuals heal and families to raise emotionally healthy children. Our third speaker today is Mr. Temitope, who is a mortgage professional with Servus Credit Union, an active community volunteer with passion for helping individuals and families navigate financial challenges and leveraging real estate as a vehicle for generational wealth creation. He helps over 300 families each year with their home financing and wealth creation goals. He has over 15 years experience in retail and business banking, sales leadership, and business development. His childhood dream was to become a medical doctor, but loves what he does by helping people achieving financial fitness as a financial doctor, noting that most medical problems disappear when financial problems are resolved. He volunteers for several good causes and support organizations that help newcomers thrive in this country they now call home. Temitope is married with 3 children. So I'm going to play a video before I'll begin by asking the questions. I will share a video for everyone to watch. I'm trying to look for the video. Please be patient with me.
Your volume is low.
Is it okay now?
We can't hear the volume.
Volume is at maximum.
We can also play it in the end.
So I
Okay.
think you can also share with you need to share with audio when you're sharing. I think that's what needs to be
Really?
done.
Okay. Let me stop it. I will stop sharing then. We'll play that. Okay, I will be asking the question because I'm the facilitator for today, and any participant who have questions, please drop it at the chat board, and then I will read the questions to the speakers. Thank you. So to begin with, Dr. Falake, from your years of, from your experience as a physician, what are some of the physical impacts that domestic violence can have on women? And why is it important for healthcare providers to recognize these signs?
Okay, yeah. So thank you for the introduction. Yeah, and I'm so pleased to be here today. I'm a family physician, as we talked about, and I've been practicing for like 20 years. So, and I do like what you said about um, our psychologists, right? Yeah, psychologists. Yeah. So I've also practiced in different countries. I've seen different things. So domestic violence can present with visible symptoms and lots of times non-visible symptoms. So in terms of physical, um, there are obvious things like maybe somebody will come in with cuts. They could come in with a bruise on facial injuries, even burns. But most importantly, we also see things where people come in with really unexplained symptoms. They just keep coming in several times, seeking help, but even we as healthcare providers can easily miss those things. So I also really, one of the things that I've also seen is that people, we talk about the physical things, but we also do sometimes don't realize that they're presenting with like anxiety, depression. A common one is flashbacks, which we call PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, and all whatnot. And it's important as healthcare providers, I won't just say physicians, it's important as healthcare providers to recognize these things, especially if somebody's coming in saying that they maybe today they come in with one kind of injury as an adult, and then they give you an excuse why they have that, or they come in another time with a different symptom. So they can come in all different forms. And your question was importance of recognition. Yes, we've had cases in Nigeria where we've had people that have died. I don't know about in Canada, but obviously in Nigeria, we've heard of some serious cases where women have died from domestic violence. So if these things are picked up early, of course, we can prevent fatal outcome. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so very much for that wonderful response. Domestic violence is very prevalent in our community, and seeing the signs is very important. Thank you. So the second question I will ask you again is, you work closely with patients to help them feel confident about their appearance. In your view, how can restoring self-confidence and self-care play a role in the healing journey for women who have experienced domestic violence?
So as you said, I run an aesthetic practice, and one of our mantra is if you look good, you feel good. So it's important, like if you feel good, if you look good with yourself, or if you look good in your appearance, you're definitely going to feel good. And if you're going through domestic violence, you're emotionally, like that the person already has poor self-esteem, they're struggling. So it's important that we encourage them to my sorry, somebody's distracted up there. So it's important that we encourage these people to self-care. And self-care doesn't have to mean that you have to spend lots of money, coming to do aesthetic treatments or whatever. It could be even like simple things, encouraging them to exercise regularly, because we do know that exercise increases endorphin, increases blood flow to the brain. It makes you feel good, right? You go to the gym, like if I go to the gym in the morning, I have a good day. And it's proven. Even simple things like pedicure, taking care of themselves, looking for things like counseling. I would still call that as part of self-care, seeking help, spiritual help. So if you and it just helps them to restore that identity as a person. Because if you're going through domestic violence, my mom went through domestic violence, and so I did experience it firsthand how she felt, and she had to come out of that relationship or that marriage, and part of her journey was she had to kind of like redefine herself. Like she took herself out of the environment and started taking care of herself, doing her hair better, or yeah, and she had to seek spiritual help. So yeah, so definitely self-care will help would help a woman to restore their confidence, and it will also help them with in their healing journey. Hello? Hello?
Yeah.
Hello?
Hi, can
Yes,
you hear
Yeah,
me?
yeah,
yes, we can.
yeah.
Yeah, I like that. If you feel good. Hello, can you
Hello?
hear me?
Yes,
Yes.
yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
Yes, I can hear you 5 on 5.
Yeah, we can hear you. Go ahead. We can hear you.
Yeah, so no, I'm done. Yeah, so Debo was talking.
Okay.
So I don't know because it's on live. So you can get, okay. Yeah, I was saying I like that if you
Look good, you feel good. We can hear
It
you,
appears,
Debo.
it appears there's a lag, kind of.
Okay.
yeah, there's echo.
I can hear you.
Can you guys see here the echo?
No, I'm not
We
hearing
can
any
hear
echo.
you. We can hear you.
Okay, thank you. I like what you said, Dr. Folake. If you look good, you feel good.
That's
And self-care, very important. So that takes me to the third question. What role can medical professionals play in supporting women who may be experiencing domestic violence, particularly when they present with physical injuries or health concerns?
the healthcare professionals or the doctors can play a very important role for sure. I think the most important thing is creating that, because usually when people are going through domestic violence, they don't trust anybody. They don't trust the system. So
Exactly.
building relationship as family doctors, as I am, with our patients, making them recognize that that information is confidential at all times. Because sometimes if, let's say in this situation where the patient may be African and African, they always worry like, oh, maybe my information is not confidential, right? because sometimes we have kids who come in and they're like, don't tell my mom, is my information, not kids, maybe young adults like 18, is my information confidential? Are you going to tell my mom she comes in? So it's the same thing. So reassuring them that that information is confidential. The community, we all, as doctors, we all are patients that responsibility to recognize these symptoms. So they're coming in with these, I'm also guilty of that. They're coming in with these unexplained symptoms. Is that we need to find a way to ask, try to look behind just, okay, you came in with this cut and you go home. And we that means we owe them a duty of care to recognize the symptoms, ask them questions like, how are things going on at home? Is anything else, you want to talk about? Just throw it out there. And sometimes if that person is overwhelmed, they will just throw it out there to you. And if they do, also make them realize that there is support for them. There are social workers available. There is support in the community. There are places like Ruth House available for them. And also educating ourselves on what resources, because sometimes as doctors, we don't even know what is out there. We don't know what is available in the community. Yes, we send them to the social worker, but we ourselves are not always educated enough to know what resources out there. So if you're informed, then you can, you know what I mean, like you can educate the next person. Documentation is key. They come in, make sure that that information is well documented. But I think it's about owning the trust of the patients, recognizing these symptoms or signs when they do come in and help them. Because some of these people will go through, they're going through anxiety, they're going through depression, and it's not normal, especially if they're coming from I won't say normal. I think there's a lot of talk about mental health these days. So people are more aware that, okay, I may be depressed or I may be anxious because there's more awareness compared to when we were growing up. We didn't know what being depressed or anxious was, right? And I think it's just providing that support, making sure they trust us as doctors, and giving them as much support as we can, and also following up. So it's one thing the patient comes in and they go, but also ensuring that we're doing that follow up so they feel trusted and they feel like they're in a trusted environment. Yeah.
Thank you for the support you're providing. Confidentiality, building trust, building rapport is very important so that they can open up. And most especially, information, they say, is power. And so when people are informed, then they know where to look for or which direction to go when they are looking for resources. Thank you. So our next guest speaker is Pastor Georgiana. Pastor Georgina, from your experience as a psychologist, what are some of the long-term psychological impacts domestic violence can have on women in families, particularly children who witness it?
Thank you. Normally, we say that children who witness abuse, be it physical, emotional, or mental, in a family, they are even as worst as children who are directly abused. So abuse impacts the whole family. These children, they live in fear, and because parents give the children the lens with which they see the world. So children that grow up in these families, they see the world as violent. And their parents show them example of how a man treats a woman and how a woman treats a man. Also, most of these kids, when I see them, they struggle with anxiety, they struggle with PTSD. Some of them struggle with bedwetting. They pee on their beds at night, and then parents are saying this child is 7, the child is still peeing. So that gives me a red flag to begin to look for if there's any abuse in the family as well. It impacts their health as well. Yeah, both physical and mental health, it impacts them. They have flashbacks as well. So these children grow up, having a lot of stressors. And also what I see that children that grow up in these families, when they become young adults, they don't want to marry because that effect of that PTSD is still with them. They are closed off to the world, and little things trigger them. Even hearing voices of somebody like the voice of their father triggers them. Having another adult in their life, maybe at school or in church or wherever they go to, trying to kind of give them feedback, it triggers also their emotions, thinking that this is my father again trying to give me feedback. And most of the time, young adults or children from these families, as they grow, they run away. They run. More like they display avoidant behavior, trying to avoid to look into those traumas. When people they can't get close to people, they struggle with intimate relationships. So when someone tries to get too close to them, they run. And what I see is that most young adults who grow up as children from abusive families or where there's domestic violence, what happens is that as they grow up, they don't know the difference between a healthy relationship and a relationship that is abusive. So they're always attracted to relationships that are very abusive. It's like a magnet. Even if there are 100 men in the room, a young girl growing up in a family where there was domestic violence, where there was abuse, will be attracted to that one man that is abusive in the room because that for her that's a familiar territory. They don't know what the difference between abusive relationship and a relationship that is not abusive. So it has a lot of impacts in children who develop to be young adults. And even in our community, in this environment, you discover that most of our young adults who have experienced that as children, they don't want to marry. Both the men and the women, they don't want to marry. They have relationships, and if the relationship is kind of getting held, the man is caring or the girl is caring, they run. Because to them, it's a very unfamiliar territory. And there's a lot
Wow.
of underlying anger as well, because the anger stems from unresolved trauma.
Yep.
Unresolved shame and guilt. Because as a child, who are you going to tell in school, in the playground, that your parents are fighting throughout the night? And most of our kids are being diagnosed with ADHD as well. And when I try to work with these kids, what I see is that a lot of them are from abusive, traumatic homes. They're always on the edge. They don't know when the parents are going to start shouting again. They don't know when their mom is going to be beat up. I had a kid who will always, once when he sleeps and he hears a little noise, he startles and he sits up on the bed because he say, Auntie Georgina, I don't know when the fight is going to start again. And then the teacher is telling the mother, take this child to a psychologist or to a pediatrician. I think this child has ADHD. So you can see that there's an underlying trauma there. So all this abuse and everything, they lead to mental health issues in our kids. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you. That's a lot. I learned one thing, that those children who witness abuse are more even traumatic than those who are abused. Wow. That leads me to the second question. As both a mental health professional and a pastor, how do you see faith or spirituality helping women find healing, strength, and hope after experiencing domestic violence?
Normally, even for the churches or for the spiritual organizations where we belong to, and even for the work I do, the first plan before even a woman starts healing spiritually, that woman needs to be separated from that environment. So the first thing is to do an exit emergency plan because that woman could be killed in that physical or domestic violence. So how does she escape? She needs to have her key in her jacket just by the door so that she's able to run out, she can find safety. So the first thing is finding a way to keep that woman and that child safe. And like Dr. Pepper was talking about confidentiality as well, one of the things we do in healthcare profession is what we call limits of confidentiality. If there's abuse going on in the home, if there's violence in the home, I have the duty to report that, to keep that woman and the children safe. And I know we're talking about women today, but sometimes as well, men can be the victim as well. But I know that today we're looking at women, right? So it's about keeping the woman and the children safe. And I normally put this up front. Hey, if you're being abused, if your children are being abused, I have the duty to keep you safe. And I have the duty to say something in order to keep you safe. And that's what we call limits of confidentiality. Because what we also see in our spirituality is that in our practice of spirituality is that most times we see our cultural beliefs and norms being interwoven in our spiritual practice. Our culture states that, for the generation of our mothers, Once you're married, you stay there. Whether your husband is killing you or not, you don't have to come back home because there's a shame in you coming back home. There's a shame in you verbalizing that you're being abused, or there's a violence in your relationship. So most times we also see this in our spiritual practices. You know, like I was asking when I started, I was asking if faith leaders are going to be here today, because I think as faith leaders, we have a lot of work to do. We have to recognize the abuse. We have to respond to the abuse, and we have to refer to the abuse, refer for that woman to be able to get some support. So for the woman, for healing from that spiritual support is kind of a holistic kind of thing, because somebody has to be saved before they can pray. Somebody has to be saved before they can physically take care of themselves. And I tell the women, I say, most times when a woman is financially incapable, like, our brother Temitope is the doctor of finance, right? When a woman cannot provide for herself, it's very, very difficult for her to separate herself from domestic violence. So one of the first things as well, in as much as they are praying, they're asking for spiritual support from their pastors, the next thing is for that woman to develop herself to be financially independent. Because when a woman can provide for herself food, shelter, and clothing, then she'll be in the right standing to be able to pray. Because most times women, they ask God, ask the question, what have I done that God gave me this kind of relationship, because things may not be able to get better. So they carry that shame, they carry that stigma, and they walk around and they don't tell anybody, because we are from the culture where we are taught, don't say how you, don't speak, don't feel, and don't share. So we keep all these secrets, and the secret becomes very toxic in ourselves. So spirituality is not something we can isolate when we're healing from domestic violence. It has to be total, it has to be holistic. Caring for physical self, exercise, eating right, praying, asking for spiritual support from our leaders, getting people to pray with us and to pray for us, going for counseling, where we'll be able to process the experience or the impact of the violence without feeling judged. Yeah, so it's a holistic kind of healing. And then the woman developing herself, because like I said in our first meeting when we started talking about this domestic violence, I said most times before it gets to domestic violence, there are about 7 other types of abuse before it becomes physical: mental, emotional,
Emotional,
psychological, um, even cultural,
financial.
even spiritual abuse, financial abuse, where the woman's money becomes our money, but the man's money is not our money, and the woman has to take permission to spend $10 from her money. Right, so it's very, very traumatizing. So you discover that there's the manipulation, there's gaslighting, and we're seeing a lot of gaslighting in our communities. People say, "Oh, you made me angry. If you didn't make me angry, I wouldn't have hit you." That's mental abuse, right? That's mental abuse. So all these things are there and build up because it's meant to manipulate, it's meant to play mind game on the woman, so that when the woman eventually gets hit by this man, the woman feels, oh, I think I made him angry, that's why he hit me. And the woman normalizes it, and that's how she sees herself. So it takes a whole village to be able to rescue that woman, because most times when women are going through domestic violence, they're the last to see it. Sisters, brethren around, peers will see it and say, hey, this is not okay. And then she'll say, oh no, she's always very nice. He has apologized. He has apologized. He didn't have his dad growing up. He has apologized. It's okay. He has promised he will never do it again. And this is what we call cycle of abuse, because once it starts, it never stops. So I think I'm going to stop there.
Okay, thank you, Pastor Georgina. I like what you said, that safety is key and there are limits to confidentiality. And also that a mind that is not settled cannot be spiritually strong or be able to pray, which actually is true. And I believe sessions like this are helping to empower our community. And so we'll be able to take the information to our community to be able to empower our society, because like what you said, our community, most people, we feel a stereotype, right? Or afraid to air out. And because of the stigma attached to it. Thanks a lot. So going to the next question. Many survivors struggle with self-worth, guilt, or shame. What practical and spiritual step can help women begin to rebuild their confidence and sense of identity after abuse?
Do I have to answer that, or is it for all of us?
Well, anyone can answer, feel free.
I can say that first of all, that woman has to begin to look after herself, begin to love herself, putting herself first. And like I said, it's a holistic kind of thing, spiritual, financial, environmental, social. Because most times before domestic violence, what happens is that the perpetrator or the abuser isolates this woman from her social circle. You can't call your mom when I'm around. So the woman secretly calls mom at work. You can't, who is that your friend? After the marriage, the man begins to say, I don't like that your friend. She's influencing you. You have to cut her off. So this woman has to start rebuilding her social circle, start looking at herself, looking after herself physically. In terms of intellect, her intellectual self, what training can she attend to develop herself? Because sometimes you hear the perpetrator saying, I'm going to school and whatever I provide should be enough. You don't have to go to school. You can go and get a job in McDonald's. So you can see how that financial control plays up, right? To be able to prepare the ground for domestic violence. So this woman has to rebuild herself because we all have capacity to develop ourselves. So this woman has to develop herself because regaining confidence and self-esteem starts from regaining that sense of self-worth. When a woman is in a domestic violence situation or an abusive relationship, she loses who she is. So it starts from going back to the basics to rebuild who she is and be able to start afresh. And most times she needs community support like Ruth's house to be able to do that. She needs to go to counseling to be able to hear that because she can't do that on her own. Thank you.
You're welcome. Dr. Folake, do you have anything to say on that?
No, I completely agree. As I said, I witnessed domestic violence growing up, and I think one important thing that was just said was that person she has to be removed from that situation first to be able to. It's almost like you have to rediscover yourself again, right? You have to rediscover who you are. You have to and from there that woman be able to know what she can do because lots of times they do feel like they're not capable of financially standing on their own. They do feel like they don't have any self or self-confidence. So it's not just about one thing, but it's about even just basic things like doing those exercise, eating well, going for massage, even if you can't go for massage, even if you can't afford to go for massage, there are things that you could do in the house these days. There's so many things online that you could do for yourself and educate yourself. And there's a lot of tools online that you can use to educate yourself to empower yourself back. Yeah. So that would be my contribution. Yeah.
Thank you. Mr. Temitope, is there anything you can chip in before we go to your own questions?
Thank you so much. And I think they've summarized it. So not just to belabor the point, one of the things I'll always say to women, and based on extensive interactions with families and women, I deal with a lot of single moms when it comes to the finance space. And, I still have a case that I dealt with this past week. One thing I always say to everyone, especially since we are focusing on the women right now, is, and I think Pastor Georgina mentioned it, in a different way, is to thyself be true. To thyself be true. Nobody knows you better. You know what you're going through better than anyone else. And the moment you start having promptings. That's what I call it. The moment you start having promptings, please seek a second opinion. That's the best thing to do, right? Because sometimes we tend to tell ourselves things that are not true, but we make them true so that we feel comfortable and we be in the right headspace and all that. But we don't want statistics. We don't want, body bags. That's not what we're looking for. We don't want damaged human beings. That's not what we are praying for. And I understand these conversations are not necessarily about, separating families, right? People who have gone through abusive past should seek help, right? If a man is abusing a woman and you come from a background where abuse is prevalent, the first thing you need to do actually before even getting married is seeking help, not looking for a partner, right? So if that is not dealt with, then it becomes a problem. So I'm just going to leave it at that and say, for our women and for everyone watching online, to yourself, be true.
That's a powerful one. Women need to be true to themselves.
Absolutely.
So to our financial doctor again, financial abuse is often a hidden part of domestic violence. From your perspective, what are some common ways financial control or abuse shows up in relationships?
Thank you so much for that wonderful question. And again, I I see this all the time, and every day, every week, even yesterday. Sometimes we have to apply wisdom to be able to handle some of these situations, right? And there are some cases where I've actually referred a few cases to Ruth House for help. Right. Clearly, I just had to and there are cases where I had to, after a meeting, typically we're dealing with a family, we want to talk to both parties. As a matter of fact, I wouldn't do, so a good example, maybe mortgage financing. The moment I discover that I'm speaking to one party more than the other on that particular subject, I am trained to know that I need to speak with the other person. It's a must. So if it's a woman that I'm speaking with like 90% of the time on this, what's going on, okay, this is what we're buying the house, we're doing this is what the rates is going to look like. I am trained to ask and say, does your husband not want to speak with me? Does your wife not want to speak with me? Because, getting a home, for example, right? Because I'm in the mortgage space, getting a home is one of the biggest debts or biggest investment most families will go into. Then you are going into something that is $500,000. Some properties are $1 million, some even more than $1 million, and only one party seems to know everything about that transactions. That's already, telling me something that we need to pay attention to. I know for some other persons, it's not important. For some other professionals, maybe they are just interested in closing the sale and moving on. But for what we do and the collaboration that I have, and I work with Ruth House lots, the sale is not important. And I can tell you so many transactions that I've aborted midway. Yeah, there's a particular case of a lady, and I told them, I said, I don't think buying a home right now is the least of our problems. We have bigger problems because I told her, she described everything, and I sensed from what was that something was going on at the background. I told her, I said, Madam, we need to deal with a bigger problem first. She said, what do you mean? I said, well, I'm listening to what you're not telling me. I'm seeing what you're not saying to me, right? And I know there's a problem. And he was like, hey, it's not like that. It's just, I said, madam, we need to focus and solve a bigger problem first. And eventually she, like Pastor Georgina said, people are not always very forthcoming until they trust you to a point before they now start telling you, okay, this happens, that happens, and all that. And at the end of the day, I'm glad I didn't do, the transaction for them. We didn't buy the house. Even till now, they haven't bought, except maybe they went to somebody else. But I knew something was wrong. I was able to spot it in the course of our transaction, and I told them upfront, hey, we need to spot, to stop this. So basically, the moment you see one party controlling a conversation that is supposed to be joint, then it becomes a problem. I am not saying so. So just to also balance it, there are dynamics in every relationship. There are times where someone is more financially savvy than the other, right? And they understand the numbers and they need to, but you're going to see input from the other party. Not when you are now having a dead, a pin drop silence and the other party is not saying anything. Those kind of things are a bit concerning, right? We see things like controlling access to money. Okay, there's one I'm dealing with again that I so they need to do a transaction in the bank. It's a joint account, for crying out loud. And I'm being told that the man who is miles away, walking off-site somewhere like several hours, away, is the one that has to come, that can come to the bank to take money in a joint account. And you have a payment that is due and has a deadline to be made to a contractor. And the excuse that would come typically is, well, she's busy with the kids, and I said, okay, the bank opens on Saturday, so if she works Monday to Friday, I get it, okay, and you are not in town.
Yeah.
The bank opens on Saturday. She can come on Saturday, and I will make arrangement for her to be able to go in, raise a bank draft for your control, because if you default, it's going to affect you both. So what children is madam taking care of? That she's taking care of the children on Monday to Friday, I get it, and she also has to work, totally understandable. On Saturday, she's not working. On Saturday, then she also needs to rest, and those are things that tell you that everything doesn't look like they are presenting it to be. Because if it's supposed to be a joint account where everybody should have access, I mean, both parties will be investing their time and little effort to making sure that things work. Classic example, you see women that want to progress in their careers, and they say things in the course of when we're having interactions, telling you things like, yeah, but my husband is not supportive of. When you hear things like that, my question is why? Okay, my question is why, and the reason is because in my profession, we listen, we don't judge. Okay, we listen, we don't judge. I just want to know why. Because there could possibly be a valid reason. Maybe there's a health concern, and the man is saying, if you go into this, it's good. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. It could be anything, but I want to know why. But I can tell you that 90% of the time, those kind of the reasons are usually not founded. The reasons are based on this, for a lack of a better term, this ego, right? Wanting to be in control, wanting to show that, okay, I'm the provider for the home and all those kind of things. And you see things sometimes in some cases like taking over, income of the partner. We see that, sometimes too. And to everyone listening, this comes in different shapes and forms. And I'm going to give a very, very interesting example. So it is possible for a woman to actually earn her money in her own account, sole account. And the moment the money, sometimes you have this arrangement where we say, okay, we have a joint account where everybody makes money in their own account, but they put it in the joint account, right? And the moment the money goes into the joint account, technically the woman is handicapped and not able to spend from that joint account, even though to the public, you see that she makes the money in her personal account, but the money is moved into the central account, and unfortunately, she's not able to go in there too. And you're now wondering, like, what is going on? All those kind. So those are things that we see. We also see things sometimes show up as racking up debts in the name of your partner. They've wrecked their own credit, for instance, and they know the woman is the only one that can possibly get approved for financing. So they push the woman forward to say, okay, you go and show face. And I'm not saying two is better than one. That's what the Bible says. I believe that too. But I also know that when some of those decisions, sometimes when abuse is prevalent, is not based on good intent to solve the problem. It's based on using the other party to still continue to further whatever interests that they may have. And lastly, I would like to say maybe one other thing again. I also like to talk about will be, we see it manifest in aborting or sabotaging the financial independence of your partner, of the woman. It also shows up in things like that. Somebody asked me, I had a client actually ask me, so how do you operate? I said, okay, so one thing, I operate mine differently because we have separate individual accounts, and we have the joint account where we do like major projects. For instance, I'm not going to buy a house as a surprise to my wife. No, that's not what you do. I'm dealing with a case right now. Just before I joined this meeting, I got an email from an appraisal company that is telling me that the project that the man has going to put his hand into is not going to work because now the property is now almost 75,000 lower than when he claimed to have started the project. So they're going to be out. That family is likely going to be out almost $120,000 to $150,000. And you know how this started? Started by a man thinking he can get this done all by himself, goes ahead to sign a contract for a property, an investment property, so to speak, without discussing or carrying the spouse, the wife along. Now that there is trouble, I told him, I said, sir, we have to now go back to the person that you have refused to talk to because your wife should have been carried along in this decision. Even if you don't talk to a professional like us, right? Your wife is you see, there are instincts that there are strengths that each person has. There's a way your wife is going to analyze things, and she's going to tell you that, are you sure? Are you know, all those kind of tips would have come in and would have saved us this crisis right now. So now you have a problem so those are little examples that we see. And more important, like I said, the financial independence part is what I don't joke with. And I always say, to my wife, like, please be free. Because why should my wife waiting for me to buy? She wants to buy things for herself, and she's waiting for me to release money. What kind of arrangement? I mean, it makes no sense to me. I am someone, even in the workplace, I don't believe in micromanaging. I have assistant reporting. Like, why should I be micromanaging, adults? No, you should be able to take a decision, even for people that work with us in the workplace. You can't do that. Allow them, express their God-given ability. If they make mistakes, you can guide, we can coach each other and say, okay, no, maybe we should have done this differently. But to now control and stifle them from realizing, their full point, it's really unfair. It's not right. And those are some of the several things that we see. And like I tell people, my wife was actually before we came to Canada, she was on her way to doing her PhD. And I'm like, yeah, I 100%. I support. If you want to be a professor, if there's anything after becoming a professor, please go for it. I don't, because really, it doesn't in any way. It only benefits us as a family if she gets those things. Coming here, this is what I want to do. My job is to support you to be that thing. She wanted to be a nurse from Nigeria, all before we came to Canada years back. And when she came here, 100% you have my support, go for it. Because if that's your dream, if that's what's going to make you happy, question is, abuse is when you try to control and stop your wife or your woman or your partner or your significant other from achieving that goal that God has actually given to them. So I'm just going to leave it at that on the finance front. Thank you.
Thank you, our financial doctor. I was going to ask a question. I was wondering, like, for those clients who come to you and single-handedly without your partner, how do you navigate that? How do you convince them to be able to bring their partners in?
Okay. One of the things, like I said, some of these things also comes with experience over time. And what is your motivation for doing what you do? Like anybody who has interacted with me would know, I am very upfront. There is no transaction I cannot walk away from. Okay. My reason for doing finance, I believe, banking is a ministry for me. So it's not a means to feed my family. As a matter of fact, if I don't do it, I'll be fine because God has helped us to be able to build other things that can, give us things to put food on the table, right? So I know that God is calling me into banking as a ministry to help, to solve problems, not to put food on the table. That's not the primary reason. So if a transaction is looking like it's not looking right, let me just put it simply that way, I actually have a right to walk away from it and say, you know what, you might as well find somebody else. So having said that, one of the things I try to do is to have exploratory conversation. Like I said, it's asking why. I'm a salesperson, right? But I also try not to wear that hat sometimes because otherwise I will not be able to spot all these kind of abusive experiences that we're talking about. So one of the things I try to do, or we try to do, is also to have conversations. Again, you want to connect with them at a level where they are comfortable to open up to you. That's the starting point. Okay. I have a case that we're supposed to do a rental property rental investment in one of the cities in Alberta here. This happened I'm talking of something that happened last month, January, February. Very fresh and very green. In the course of the transaction, when somebody tells you they are married, and again, like I said, 95% of the time, she's the only one on the call, doing all the process together and all that. Then, of course, I know, I could hear the cry of a baby at the background, right? She's a new mother and all that. So I start talking about the baby. Oh, how's the baby doing? Okay, and all that. Then gradually, we also try to ask questions about, oh, so what about the dad? Because if you had told me that you're separated, it's a different thing altogether. Okay. But since you said you're married, then I can assume, otherwise or not. Then in the course of the conversation, you start seeing responses that suggest that everything is not okay. Because when you're not willing to, I mean, in a healthy relationship, you want to talk about your spouse. If somebody asks about your spouse, what do they do and all that, you are proud to be able to, not divulge your family secret, but you know what I mean? You're able to share a little bit inside. But when you start hearing some remarks, then you know that, okay, something is going on. And gradually we got to the point where she was eventually able to open up after 1.5 months, just so you know. After 1.5 months, she was able to open up as the conversation progressed about what was going on. And I was very clear at that point. At that point, I said, you know what? As much as I want to make a sale, as much as I know my company is going to clap for me if I do this mortgage investment for you, I recommend the first thing at this point, because the way the stage things were, it was very clear that she needs to get a lawyer, because the other party was already taking some steps that were, dangerous, so to speak. So I said, at this point, madam, this mortgage is no longer our priority. You need to talk to your lawyer and make sure that you have yourself protected, because I can clearly see financial abuse was already going on. It was racking up debt. It was racking up debt under the joint account. So mark my words, under the joint account. And you know what it means. For us as banks, right? So long as it's a joint account, you are jointly and severally liable. So it doesn't matter who rack up the days, really, but you can see from the transactions, he was spending all the money and all that. And you know the funny thing, the woman trying to also use the joint account to advance her life goals and objectives will put money in the joint account to wipe out some of the debts that has been there. And guess what he does again? He goes to that joint account, the money that the woman puts there, sweeps it out again and spends it. So imagine you having a negative position of 20,000 and the woman puts 20,000 in the account so that the account can be in good standing to be able to achieve other things you want to do. And you go there and you take the 20,000. So technically, so that was what we were dealing with. There was one morning when when I got a call, it was around 4:30 in the morning. So just so you know, my clients, we have that kind of relationship where they are free to reach out to me. Sometimes I get calls late, not that I want to, not that there are no boundaries, but I've told them that, because at the end of the day, like the volunteering I do with Ruth House and all that, we want to make sure we're able to catch people alive. Don't call me, because I mean, if you are dead, you can't reach out to me. So I always tell them, once I spot it, you know what, I'm going to break that rule for you. If there's anything that is an emergency, I'm not 911. If it's so emergency, call 911 first. If there's something that you quickly we need to deal with, or you need, just reach out to me, leave me a message if I don't pick, and I will respond. So 4:30 or around 5 a.m. in the morning, I saw the repeated calls coming in. And she was like, hey, he has gone to the account, he has taken the 40,000. I'm like, God. So we are out of 30,000 before, and the 40,000 you put in the account is already. So the first thing I said, I said, madam, we're going to abort the property you want to buy. That's the least of our worries right now. So please don't let any mortgage broker anywhere deceive you. Abort it for now. Take your money out of the account and go talk to your lawyer. Straight up. So those are the kind of real life experiences that we see, and it's disheartening. It's disheartening because sometimes when we talk of abuse, we often think, oh, it's all about somebody bringing a knife and all that. I mean, a woman that's going to carry a debt of $100,000 is almost equally as dead. Like, how much does she even make in a year? No, really, because like I said, I wanted to be a financial doctor, but I know that oftentimes if we resolve our financial problems, I wanted to be a medical doctor, but today I thank God for what I do. If you resolve most of our financial problems, we will likely live a good life, honestly. And that's what I've seen in practice, because you have less worry about. So now think about this woman who just had a baby, right? And going through all of these problems for a man, that is doing all of those things, and she's still going to have to carry a debt of $100,000 out of the relationship if everything goes separate ways. So tell me, it's the same thing as taking a knife to stab, if you ask me, right? That's the way I see it, and I may be wrong, but just saying. So those are examples of what we see in real life situations. But over time, we get people talking, we get people, opening up, and sometimes or not even sometimes, a few times I've had to call Ruth House, number to say, hey, we need, Pastor D as well. I've had to call her and say, hey, I need help for this family and all. And there was a case where, Ruth House at odd hours, just keep that in mind, at odd hours, they had to intervene and say, okay, you know what, madam, you need to quickly go, move out of the house, just go here. You need to be alive first, and let's see what we can do to resolve. And to the glory of God, I believe we're making good progress. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, just like you said, and Dr. Folaket said it also, and Pastor Georgina, that building rapport, building trust is very important in the relationship.
Totally.
Yeah, thank you. This takes me to the next question. For women who are living abusive situations, financial insecurity can be a major barrier. What are some practical first steps they can take to begin rebuilding their financial independence?
Yeah, thank you so much. So like what I said earlier was talking about to thyself be true. Okay. In an ideal setting, it wouldn't have been a problem if everybody had the right common sense and things are going well, right? Of course, we have situations where we have stay-at-home moms, which is not bad for those that want to do it and want to take care of their kids and all that. However, my recommendation, based on extensive and like you read in my bio, I deal with well over 200 mortgages, 300 sometimes in a year. And I deal with 80% of those are families. And I see these things like the back of my hand every day, even this week. Stay-at-home moms and all that. My strong recommendation is everyone should have a skill. Everyone. Whether you're going to stay at home, whether you're going to sleep at home, and it doesn't matter. We have stay-at-home dads as well. You need to have a skill. I don't care what that skill is going to be. And I'm not talking about skill of I can work at McDonald's or I can sell at Timo. That's not the skill. I'm talking about who are you? Like for example, and again, respect to my wife, she's a nurse, right? She elects not to work full time because she wants to, right? Because she desires not, because really we necessarily don't need both of us working full time, right? So it's a deliberate choice. But I'm not married to a woman, or she didn't grow up, I didn't marry her as a nurse. This is a skill that she acquired based on this is what I wanted to be. And I knew that right from before we came to Canada. This is what I wanted to be. And you know how school can be back home. You apply for one thing, you get something else, and you're stuck and you can't change. And she still made the best of what she was doing. She got what she wanted back home and she became a lecturer. And she was progressing in that path. And that's why I said she was on a path to doing a PhD. Actually, I actually drove to the university to purchase the enrollment form, did everything for her, like, no worries, continue. However, but when we came to Canada, the opportunity opened up to say, I wanted to be a nurse. That's actually my lifelong dream. I can still pursue it now in Canada. Am I supposed to say, oh no, continue to be a lecturer that you've been? No. I said, that's okay. We're going to pursue it as well. And she started one at a time, first one, So where I'm going to is from experience, and I'm using that as a, practical example. I know that's a very, very minor, it's too limited to generalize for everybody, but the principles are likely going to be the same, right? We're able to say she did the nursing program and now she has a skill. So we're not praying for anything, not that we're even remotely close to, we're not fighting each other. But today, right? Because life happens. Life happens. We've seen cases where even one partner dies and the other person is handicapped and they can't do nothing, right? But if you have a skill, it helps. That's the starting point. then you can now say, okay, I'm working. So whether you're doing full-time today or you're doing part-time, you have something in your hand that you can, and it could be anything. It could be in IT, it could be in it could be whatever area you desire. There is no rule that says this is what it has to be. It could be in different expertise. I just use nursing as an example based on my own our own dynamic. So the first thing for people to do is to acquire a skill. That's number one, and that way you know that okay, you have a direction, that your own life, you have a goal, you have a vision for yourself, you have a purpose, and that ties into your overall family goal. Then secondly, the like we recommend in finance circles, the recommendation when it comes to finances, because again, that's always where most of the problems stem from. We recommend that each party should have a separate account. Okay. Man have an account, woman have an account, and have a joint account. That's the way it is. So if you can maintain those three, that's fine. And if you can maintain a truly joint account, I'm going to repeat that. A truly joint account, that is also good. Some people practice that. And I use the word truly advisedly, because we've had cases where people tell, oh, we have a joint account, but unfortunately, we know some income is going, somewhere else. That should not be the case. So we're saying the standard the ideal would be each person have a separate account and you have a joint account where you use for projects. So that way you're still able to maintain some level of independence, right? I'm not waiting for my wife when I need to buy a new shoe. Why? Your wife is not waiting for you to bring money when she needs to buy, a sanitary, tools. And why would that doesn't make any sense? It's not right, and it's also one of the financial abuse that we often see. So we recommend that get skill, start taking some financial responsibility. Okay, is very, very important. And also, I'm not going to underestimate, this is even more important than everything, getting financial education. Everybody should have it. The man, the woman, the man, the woman. I know we're discussing about women here. There are cases where we see that the man has zero clue about what's going on financially. As a matter of fact, I had a meeting in February where the man, at a point, the first meeting we had, the man said to me, say, you know what, we have to reschedule this meeting. I said, well, my wife needs to be on this call. So this is a man that makes the money. He makes the money. Hundreds of thousands, they have lots of assets running into millions. But guess what? He has zero clue about money management. So the wife had to join the call. And he said on the call, I called for this second meeting because you know what? Whatever my wife says is what we're going to do on this matter. She's going to tell us the finance. So the wife actually interacting with the woman, even though she's a stay-at-home mom, she's top-notch when it comes to finance. She understands money. She understands numbers, right? That is still not an ideal situation because the man should also know. But unfortunately, all the effort we are doing to explain how he understands not. All he knows is he knows how to do his business. He knows how to bring money, but how to organize money and do investment at zero, he has no idea at all. And thankfully, the woman was able to help. So what they do is I'll explain to the woman. She goes home and re-explain to the man in a language that he understands, family, they've been together forever, so they know each other better, and it's fine. So that's an example, right? But at least this is even a good example because you can see a man who makes all the money, right? But the woman technically she's like the CFO of the family. She decides, okay, we're going to do this, we'll put this here, which is great, collaboration, right? But it's still good that each person should have financial education. So especially for women, I recommend it's always good to have that financial education. Very, very, very critical. And another thing, again, I also like to say, and maybe I'm going to stop at this so that we can go to other questions and topics, will be, I always recommend that people should have the right support group. And I'm speaking again from hundreds of cases that we see. Because when you're interacting with people and you hear things like, my friend said, it gives us concern. My friend said, my group said, and when you sometimes look at some of those groups, unfortunately, they are peopled by people that, they are peopled by a group of persons who have also experienced some trauma, have not sought help, have not been healed, and they are providing advice to you. So that in itself is worrisome because we know what the scripture says about the blind leading the blind, right? They're not
Yeah.
going anywhere. So the best thing is that have a support group, especially from professionals. Talk to people that are expert, like Dr. Pepo had mentioned earlier, and even Pastor Georgina had talk to people who have the skill set in this. I don't, and I don't pretend to. My own role is limited to, in the course of our daily interactions, catch those things and refer them out. I don't sit in a position to give advice and counsel
And it
families
tests
or
me in outcome because I'm not gonna stay with you. But
so we don't try to sit in a position of counseling people. I don't do that. From life experiences, yes, do I see some faint ideas? Yes, I do, but it's not my job. So what we do is to catch it in the course of our interactions with people, and we refer to organizations and say, you know what, I think you need to be talking to these people and explain why they should do it. And for those that have taken it, they've really seen some very good outcomes. And I'm going to leave it at there. And I hope there's a lot more to share than we can take on the call, right? But yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. How powerful. Financial education is key. For those just joining, the topic for today is the impact of domestic violence. The impact of domestic violence on women. So if you have questions, please drop them on the chat board and I'll read them to the guest speakers. Going to the next question. What advice will you give to organizations and communities that want to better support survivors of domestic violence in gaining financial stability and long-term security?
Thank you so much for that wonderful question. One of the things I always require, and I want to say that not because I'm a part of Ruth House. Ruth House is home from when it started. But one of the things I always like to encourage every organization to do, and I see Ruth House do that, effectively, is we need to deliver what I call the trauma-informed financial education. No sentiments. In the course of our delivery, we need to have that component. It's compulsory, like we're having today. People need to know the impact of these things on their finances, right? And respectfully, if people are going to go their separate ways, which is always the last resort, that's not what we're praying for. It should also be with, it should be based on an informed decision because there's a financial impact to that as well. It can damage people, eventually. I have cases where people have to separate, and they are doing it responsibly as well because they both understand that, well, yeah, we're not going to be together again, and but we still have our lives to live, and their finances are still being taken care of in the process because the two of them have chosen to say, okay, you know what, they've gotten the right kind of help that they need. Because you don't want to get out of this and you are damaged financially. That could even make things worse. Like I told somebody sometimes in January, I said, I am not averse to whatever position you take, madam. As a matter of fact, my job is to make sure that you are taking that position in an informed manner, under due guidance and counsel from professionals. I am not one. I believe you're talking to counselors and other people that you should be talking to. But please, at the end of the day, what is important for me is make sure that you don't get damaged in the process, whatever you do. And again, I'm saying this to everyone on the call, including myself. Whatever we do, make sure that the challenges of life does not destroy who you are. Because at the end of the day, at the end of whatever process we're going through, you're still going to remain a human being living. So what kind of human being are you going to be? A damaged one? Because a damaged person who has gone through abuse and all these things will come out and now become a problem to the society. They're going to become a problem to other relationships, right? So for organizations, the goal is for them to have a section or a team that is dedicated to giving the proper financial advice, realistic steps. Like I've mentioned, example, having a skill, having your home bank account and things like that. I also recommend that organizations should also have some good partnerships with financial institutions. We're leaving a lot on the table by not doing that. And I'm saying this to every organization that is present here and watching. Organizations want to put their money in this area because they know it's a critical area. Let me give an example. If I own the bank, or let me use as an example, and I'm not speaking for my financial institution now. If I own a bank and I lend money to a couple, I want my money to come back. I want my money to come back. I am not in the business of selling properties. That's not what, when we open shop, we didn't open shop to be selling people's home. We open shop to borrow you money to buy a house and you return our money. So as an organization, if I know that abuse is a pandemic, and I know that abuse can cost me my money coming back, don't you think I would want to put my money in some education that will make sure that that is prevented and my money comes back? So for organizations, I say it's very, very crucial. Partner with financial institutions. They are really interested. You have the International Women's Month going on, all those kind of things. Those are opportunities for organizations to also support, provide those education that we're talking about, because as they do, it's not just to support your organization. They are actually helping themselves, but you don't know. Organizations, businesses are not stupid. They are doing it to also protect themselves. They know that by providing that education, their money is guaranteed coming back, because when you have a saner couple or a family that their two heads are working together the right way it should, courtesy of the education that they are getting, their own resources that they have also given out is guaranteed coming back. If the marriage break up, the bank is also likely to lose money. Trust me. Because all people would likely do is to file bankruptcy. Yes, it's going to damage their credit, but the bank is also not going to get its complete money back, which is not the goal that what the bank set out to do. So those are things that I would say organizations need to do. And again, on the skill set, I think it's also good that organizations partner with educational institutions, especially when we start seeing signs of someone. Encourage people. Oh, you can attend Bow Valley College. You can attend this college. You can start this program. You can, just to encourage people to start getting that skill, right? And again, people are not getting the skill because they want to break up. People also get, when you get those skills, you notice that you're even able to contribute more meaningfully to the family. That's the truth. So you are not getting the skill because you want to separate and you want to be on your own thing. And that's not the intent. The intent is when you are even empowered as a woman, you are able to contribute more meaningfully. So we encourage organizations to go through that, and that will be something that will add value, to our people and to our women. And lastly, one of the things I also like to say to organizations, we need more effort to fight some of the stigma that we see. Marriage is between a man and a woman, right? And people that have matured minds. One of the stigma that we see, and I think Pastor Georgina tried to mention it, but maybe not directly, is that there are some things that are accustomed to, this is what the man should be the one to bring the money, or the woman should do this, and all those kind of things. Respectfully, it really shouldn't matter where the money is coming from. It should not matter in an ideal setting, because it's very possible that the man might make more. It's very possible that the woman might end up being the one that is making more. And it should really be nobody's business. I mean, external parties. It shouldn't be their business to know who is bringing what. In a marriage or in a union, it should be we have income, because everybody's bringing 100% of who they are to the table, because you can't ask people to give what they don't have. So one thing that we need to also work on is the stigma that we see in our community, where some things, if a woman steps in to play a certain role or to help, or it's seen as, oh no, she's controlling the man, or or maybe it's even possible for people to know from outside that the woman makes more money. A good example, maybe a woman is a medical doctor and the husband is maybe in some other professions that people would obviously see, right? From those things should not even be, it should be something that we should start killing gradually right now in our communities, especially the African communities. We should stop it. because it really doesn't matter where the money is coming from. Both are bringing 100% of what they have to the table. And we have examples of family. I have a family where, the wife is a medical doctor, experienced with lots of years of experience, like Dr. Pepple, and she makes good money. As a matter of fact, the man makes 1/5. 20% of what the family makes, was I know because I help them with their finances and all that. 20% of what the family makes comes from the man. But it doesn't matter. And they are doing well. They have lots of investments and they are doing very okay. Now, the society stigmatizes that man and calls him, he's not man enough, right? Because he's not, but it doesn't really matter. He's thriving in his own field of endeavor and he's doing very well. He's doing very well. And the woman is thriving in her field of endeavor. So we need to help curb. Those are just examples of some of the stigma that people face. And we have several examples like that. It really shouldn't matter. It shouldn't matter if the man is making $1 million and the woman is making 50,000. Then you now say, oh, the woman is useless, or she is not useless. Because there are things that you cannot place monetary value on. I've had cases, I had a case a few years ago where the wife was able to save the man from untimely death in Halbada. The man goes, oil and gas worker, makes lots of money and comes back, and the woman, one of those days when he came back and the woman goes, the way you are snoring does not look normal. Something is not right. So think about it. This man goes by himself into the field, walks by himself, and nobody could tell him that the way he snores is abnormal. But just coming back home, the wife says, the way you're snoring is not normal. And forced him to go to Foothills Medical Center. And, as God will have it, right there from the emergency room, when they went to just, do the check, and they said, sorry, you can't go home. And he had to go for an emergency heart surgery. So how do you place monetary value on something like that? And you now come and tell me, oh, the woman, because she makes barely nothing, do you place monetary value on those kind of things? So we need to stop some of those stigma in the community and make sure that we bring back the family to what it's originally intended to be, one fully functioning unit. Thank you.
You're most welcome. Thank you for that wonderful sharing. Pastor Georgina, did you say you have something to say?
Yeah, I wanted to add something. One thing we have to know is that in any family where there's abuse or anybody experiencing any traumatic situation, be it physical, mental, or emotional, there's what we say clinically that the body holds the scores, in the sense that the body has a way of trapping those traumatic experiences and stressors in the physiology of the person. And that's what leads to high blood pressure, terminal ill health. And we see a lot of this in our communities because people don't recognize their stress even when they're going through it. Most of us are super women, you're the soccer mom, you're everything, you do all the running around. And then on top of that, the person is also experiencing abuse or domestic violence. So that's why we cry out that the person, whoever is involved in that or experiencing that, need to get some help, not when it's too late. There was a few years ago, about 5-6 years ago, I was supporting somebody, and then somebody was asking her, why is it that a lot of women in your community are dying of heart attack? Why are they having stroke even in their 40s? This is because the body holds the scores. Another thing I want to talk about is the impact of domestic violence or abuse on pregnant women. It doesn't just impact the pregnant women, it also impacts the unborn children. There was a research that was done in South Africa, I think in 2024, where about 143 infants, their brain was checked after 3 weeks of birth. And these are, the kids were given birth to by women who have experienced intimate partner violence, which is domestic violence. So what happened was that they discovered that there was a brain issue in these kids. So, and it impacts the boys differently than the girls. The girls, most times as they grow, will have those emotional and social developmental issues. For the boys, they will have issues with learning, memory, and even motivation. So you can see that violence or abuse does not just impact the woman, it impacts also the unborn child. So the truth is that We need to create a safe environment both for our families. And I like what my brother Temitoba was saying. The truth is that once you recognize it, you must respond to it, you must refer. Once we recognize it, you're not the final bus stop. We need to refer to people where that person can get the help. And for our African communities, it takes a village to support women or to support any family going through any form of abuse. And Brother Temitope, thank you for the job you do. It sounds like you're a clinician on the mortgage floor. So we appreciate that. So
Thank you.
all of us want to live long. And you can see there's an epidemic of cancer in our community. Almost every week, there's a Black man or a Black woman who is diagnosed. Even sometimes a mother who just gave birth may be diagnosed. So the truth is that all of us, all hands must be on deck. At every point in time, let's recognize it, let's respond, let's refer so that we can get the support that these people need. Thank you. That's what I wanted to add.
Thank you. Thank you so very much.
I have something to add.
Okay.
Can I quickly say something?
Yes, please.
Yes, thank you, Pastor Georgina. I just wanted to point out on something as well about the impact of domestic violence on the physical side, because I didn't really touch on that at the beginning, is to also remind people that there are chronic or long-term complications that can arise from this. So, for instance, people that are having recurrent eye trauma, it could lead to blindness. Not even at that, maybe not even early on, even as they get older, because if they have recurrent trauma and they now have things like glaucoma as they get older, it could affect their eyes, you know what I mean, like their sight long term. Also the impact on chronic issues like chronic pain. Some of them have like chronic bowel issues they can't really explain, which we call irritable bowel syndrome, where you don't know what is wrong with you. You just know that your bowel is not right, but they do all the tests in the whole, but they can't find anything. But it's from that impact of stress on the bowel. We call it irritable bowel syndrome. Other things like in women, because sometimes when you have these issues going on, there's infidelity. It could also have STIs, sexually transmitted infection, that can also lead to infertility in women as well. So there are other things that we don't think about. We only just see what's on the surface. I was hit in the eye, or they have the regular burns and all that. But there are chronic things that can arise from the impacts of domestic violence. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for that wonderful information. And there's a question on the chat board. How does chronic stress from abuse manifest psychologically over time? Feel free, anyone can answer.
So let me speak from the financial perspective and some of the things that we see. We are all product of experiences, all of us, good or bad. And I am conscious to recommend or to mention to my clients or to my prospects every time we interact to say, hey, make sure the good things are what is shaping who you are becoming. Because if only the bad things, if you keep exposing yourself to all this, like stress, abuse, all those kind of, it starts forming, like Pastor Georgina just said, you wouldn't know, but you are forming, it's forming inside. And it's affecting your perception of reality. It has a way of distorting. The danger with this topic we are discussing is that sometimes you don't even know you've gone too far before you realize it. So when you meet people and they start saying things, when they say certain things that look like this is normal, this is it. It looks like the truth, but it's actually true because it's their reality, right? But the truth is they've been damaged. The damage has now caused, untold stress, and it has affected their psychology. It has now created a new human being who has a different perception of reality. So when you hear some statements from people and they talk to you about money management practices, you're wondering, like, that sounds odd. Like, why? But if you look at it truly, you can't fault what they're saying because what they're saying appears true. But when you zoom out a little bit, you know that this is a product of the stress that they've gone through. And in a bid to cope, they've developed, that negative covering that you are now seeing that is manifesting as what is true. And that's why I always say the best thing is sometimes the best place to get help is not from fellow, friends that have also gone through some of those, because some of them have not healed completely. Some of them are still going through the healing process. The best place to go is to go and meet professionals like Dr. Pepple, Pastor Georgina, and other people who are trained to do their job. If I'm damaged, if I've gone through a certain level of stress, and is affecting my perception of reality, if you come to me, trust me, I'm going to tell you what appears to be the truth, but I'm speaking from a depth of damage and destruction that has now become a new normal for me. And you're going to copy that. And that's why we have chaos in our society today. Because everybody is now a professional. Everybody now gives financial advice. Everybody now gives marital advice. Everybody is now a relationship coach. Everybody is now a therapist. As a matter of fact, the people tell you can do it yourself. You can talk to ChatGPT. You can get therapy from AI. And well, my recommendation is please seek professional from people who are trained to do their job. Don't talk to me who maybe, for example, maybe I'm having troubles with my wife and you're talking to me about something like this, right? And I'm advising you from a depth of the maltreatment that I'm meting out to my wife. If you're going to keep a good circle, right, one of the ways by which you cannot make sure that you're dealing with people that still have some sanity in their heads, right? So how does this thing manifest over time is gradual. And unfortunately, this can take 10, 15, 20 years, and you would not even know. So think about how long 20 years is. Are you going to reverse the hand of time backwards to start living that good life that we no. So please, it manifests over time by the changes that we begin to see in our perception to reality. And I'm going to share lastly on, as an example, and this maybe for men that may be watching this later at some point, I was in a group where a young man came up and was saying something, and I think something was mentioned about infidelity right now. So he was actually into some extracurricular activities, and he was doing all. So he was boasting about it in a group of young men and all that, and everybody was talking to him, and he was giving excuses about how, the wife was not available, sexually and all that. It's okay. And people talk to him and say, hey, what you're doing is nonsense. Because one, is costing your family financially. Now you're maintaining a double life. Money that you're supposed to use to take care of everybody, you are now spending in two ways and all that. And guess what? Apparently, they had a child who was on the heavy side and was quite a bit of work for the woman. So the woman takes care of every other thing and also the boy, right? And by the time he comes back from work and claims that the woman is not available, of course she's not going to be available. Because the young man, the boy, your son, has wore the woman out already throughout the day. Because you were complaining, and how did we get to know? He was complaining that there was a day or two that the woman was not around, and he had to be the one to stay with the boy to take care of him. And he complained about the stress he went through. That's how, and luckily it was a good environment where all the men now looked at him and said, wait, is that not the same boy that you said your woman looks after every day? So you took care of that boy just for 2 days, and you're complaining how you're having to take Tylenol and Advil and everything. And you are now complaining that same woman, of course, there was no way the woman would be available, because look at what you went through for 2 days. You are complaining. So apparently you even have a boy that needs help. You have a son that possibly is going through, so has some disability and needs, help. You should step in and help and stop this, not this nonsense. So those are some of the things that we see. And that's why I'm emphasizing that people need to keep a good circle of people that can tell them the correct thing. I know you felt a bit sober and, remorseful after that interaction because he was taking pride in the nonsense he was doing. But he realized that, bro, you need to get help yourself, and you also need to to be there to also help your wife and your baby, because the boy needs professional help if he's displaying some of these things at this early stage. Thank you.
You're most welcome. For those just joining again, the topic for today is the impact of domestic violence on women. If you have any questions, please, you can drop it on the chat board.
Okay, I'm going to say something because the last question says, what's the impact of chronic stress or chronic experience of domestic violence on somebody? Chronic means is for a long time. Chronic is about years, time passed, right? Chronic means, yeah. So there's the number one thing is PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. And this post-traumatic stress disorder can manifest in form of psychosis. That person might be hearing voices or seeing things other people don't see, depression or even major depressive disorder because it's been for a long time. Anxiety, and Dr. Peppel talked about IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, panic attacks. So when people come to me and say their doctor has referred them for depression and anxiety, I go deeper and I look at trauma, and it's like a red flag. You can never miss it. And I've had situations in this city where a woman, you can see a woman who is going through all those symptoms of PTSD, hearing voices, seeing things. And then the husband is not allowing such a woman to get medical help. Why? Because they will say in the hospital that my wife is crazy. And I remember there was a particular situation I got the woman's contact, I tried texting her to say, hey, we can do coffee and all that. And then I got a reply, oh, sister, don't worry, I'm okay. But of course, my inner gut tells me that it was the husband who gave that reply, right? And that was how that door was shut. I couldn't help that person. And we see a lot of this in our clinics. So the truth is that let's not even allow the stress to be chronic. Even when we get stress, when we get a stressful day, let's talk to somebody, because stress is a gateway to all the other mental health issues. And domestic violence, like I said, is always the final straw. There are other 7 or 8 types of abuse going on in the background in that woman's life before the domestic violence shows up. So that's what I wanted to add.
Thank you. I was wondering, based from our community and where we are coming from, we have this challenge of people not going to seek help from expertise, and everybody wanting to be expert in certain fields. So I was wondering, how can we handle such situations, or how can we, as a community, be able to sensitize our community to get help, to seek for help from the right direction or the right channel? Because that, to me, is making the community to be sinking more and more, because information, again, is power, and is something most immigrants, when they come here, that's when they are learning. Some don't even have the idea of, like, where do I go to seek help? They just operate as they have been brought up. They saw their grandparents, their parents growing up, and so that's what a system that keeps continuing, or a cycle. So how can we help to overcome these challenges?
I would say that things are better than before. Like, even just having something like Ruth's House has been a great resource for sure in the community. And so as like in my practice, my client base is more, because I used to practice in Okotok, so I have more Caucasians in my practice, but I do have few Africans as well. And when maybe some of them I mean, maybe I would say I'm a little bit close to, and they give me this information. I use that as an opportunity to educate them that we do have these resources available. But social media is huge. Everybody's on their phone, right? Everybody is, I think, being in Canada, I think almost everybody has a phone, and almost everybody's on social media. So um, using this platform to educate people even online. I know I did put a post there saying that everybody's an expert on social media, but it's still a way of reaching out to people to let them know that these resources are available. Even just like in the toilet, I know like people like as we're talking about Africans in this context where we're saying that they're not reaching out to people, but even just like in the washroom, putting signs up there like if they need help, there's help available. But I think the main thing is people don't want other people to know their business. They're worried that if I say that, one is that there's fear. Number two, they feel like, especially if some people might feel like, oh, if my doctor is Nigerian, my information is not confidential. Somebody else may know. So it's all about that gaining that trust from people. But I feel like we've come a long way compared to, at least in my little space, I think, compared to even a few years ago, where people would not even seek any counseling. Like I went through, as I said, I came from a family where there was domestic violence. I don't remember anybody going for counseling. I never went for counseling, even as a child, right? But obviously, over time, as you get older, you're more informed than you were, or maybe that our parents were many years ago. So I think it's all about we just have to keep providing this opportunity to educate people, um, building trust, just trying to reassure them that they coming to the doctors or wherever is a safe space, and making them educating them that we are there to support them and their information is confidential, and also trying to educate them on the impact of the impact or implication of domestic violence in different aspects, whether it's financial. Some people don't even know that, as our financial doctor has said today, that financial abuse is a form of domestic violence. You understand? So I think you guys are doing a good job. Ruth also doing a good job. And there's so many other places, so many other resources available in the community. And we just have to keep going, just have to keep creating that awareness.
Thank you, Dr. Folake, for the compliments.
Can I add something there?
Yes, please.
Also, like doctor said, one thing as well that benefits our people is that education piece, because people cannot engage in what they are not aware of. I know that in my church that I attend, every health week in Alberta or in Canada, because we have a health team that does presentation on physical health, physically check blood pressure of church members, monitor, give recommendation, refer. We also have presentation on mental health and what people can also do. And one thing I try to do in my clinic is that anywhere Africans gather, somehow I get connected there to do presentations on mental health. I speak to the Eritrean community, I speak to the Sudanese community, I speak to the Nigerian community. I also speak in churches, because most people, they might work 7 days a week, but they will attend church on Sunday. They will go to community meetings. So through those platforms, people are able to hear and also be aware of what to do. Also, even on the individual basis, we owe each and every one of us that obligation to support each other to get the mental health support that we need. Sometimes people are scared to book an appointment and to go in person alone. Even telling that sister, don't worry, I'll drive you to your appointment. Don't worry, I will arrange a coffee meeting so that you meet with that professional. Because sometimes most professionals are also ready to walk outside the box. They're ready to meet people in coffee shops. They're ready to go on a walk with somebody on a sunny day while they're doing the counseling. So it wouldn't look like a normal, quote and unquote counseling where you sit in an enclosed office, right? So we must be able to recognize it and be able to offer that support, because once somebody knows that we're there to support them, I'll drive you to your appointment, we'll make it work, don't worry, I'm here for you. And even recognizing it, because the person who is involved or who is suffering is not the first person to recognize it. First of all, we need to watch out, that person that you're relating with, watch out for the grooming, what has changed. Is it somebody who normally does her hair and now she doesn't do her hair anymore? Does the person normally iron their clothes and look smart and look neat? Do they do their nails and now they don't do their nails anymore? So that will tell you that there's a red flag here, something has changed. And we need to pick that up and then be able to kind of support that sister or that person through that journey of healing. Because once they can break the ice and attend the first appointment, second appointment, get that connection with that professional, then the other ones, I tell you, they'll be free to continue to attend.
Thank you, Pastor, for the wonderful work you do in our community. Does our financial doctor has anything to chip in?
Well, I think they've they've both said it. And I'm just going to re-echo what Pastor Georgina just said. People should we should support one another, encourage one another, and help each other to get the help that we need. And social media, good and bad, let's be watchful, let's be careful. Don't consume everything you get. Double check what you are consuming or what you are seeing and what you are reading, even if it's supposedly from a professional. Have an independent, a second opinion about it, and be sure before you believe those things hook, line, and sinker. And just to also say, perhaps there's anyone on the call who needs help, and maybe for some reasons, maybe you need consultation or you need help and because sometimes finances could also prevent people from talking to someone. I'm saying I would recommend those people, if you're watching, if you're on this call, reach out to, you can connect to Ruth House, and I will be committing to supporting, a few people to pay for your first consult. I don't know if you're meeting Pastor Dr. Pepple or Pastor Georgina or whoever you want to meet, reach out to Ruth House, and Ruth House will definitely connect with me, and I can guarantee that we will be supporting, some of us, as many that needs. I would say maybe up to 5 persons who may want to get help or counseling or sit down with someone to pay for their first, consult. Let's even start that process and see that people are talking to people that know better than all of us, and they can get you get you the right help that you need, because we don't want it to be a situation whereby people could have actually sought help, but because they didn't have the resources. I don't know how much, Pastor Georgina or Dr. Pepu does for consult or what. I don't know, but I'm just saying, if there are people like that, please reach out to Ruth House. We will make arrangements for you to be covered, okay? And we will be able to save as many people as reasonably possible. Thank you.
Thank you for that wonderful one. Please, participant, don't hesitate to reach out to Ruth House. We have covered a whole lot today. Information overload. Thank
Sorry,
you
I
guys.
think somebody
Somebody
just
just
posted
posted
something in the
something. Yeah,
chat.
that's important actually. Yeah.
Okay. Having endured chronic domestic abuse and violence for 30 years, I have several health challenges I'm dealing with. Can you refuse? Can you refuse?
Maybe she meant to refer.
Who have knowledge. Can you refer me to a doctor who have knowledge of domestic violence? My doctor is not supportive.
Okay. I guess that's for me, right?
Yes.
So what I can do is contact Ruth House, and I think they have my email, and depending on where you live, if you live, it might not necessarily be me, but definitely I can connect with one of my doctors in the clinic, and then we can definitely provide support. So as for family doctors, we don't charge. So we are all under Better Health. We get paid by Better Health Service. So the service is free. But you're doing the right thing. If you feel your doctor is not supportive, you need to find another doctor. And right now, I think there are lots of doctors in the city. So if you're not getting the support that you need from whoever you're seeing, you need to go to a different clinic or find a different doctor. So I'm happy to help.
Thank you, Dr. Fulake.
You're welcome.
Is there anyone with any more questions? Yeah, we've covered a whole lot today from the experts of the three invitees we have here, or guest speakers. We look at just like Dr. Folake said, you have to look good to feel good. Self-care is very important. Pastor Georgiana said you have to be in the right framework of mind in order to pray, to be spiritually bonding. So thank you, guys. Be truthful to yourself, like a financial doctor have said. Building rapport, trust, confidentiality, financial education, empowerment for the women is very, very important. Safety is vital. And also there is a limit to confidentiality. Women need to empower themselves by having the skills they need to feel empowered. And again, trauma-informed financial empowerment. I got it from this session today. We are going to the end of our session for today. And thank you all, our guest speakers, Dr. Folake, Pastor Georgina, Mr. Temitope. We thank you all. At Root House Society, we remain committed in supporting individuals and families experiencing domestic violence through safe shelter, supportive programs such as the in-home family support, cultural programs, community engagement, Sisterhood Connect, Brotherhood Connect, Youth with Voices. We also have anyone who wants to volunteer, you're welcome. Anyone who wants to donate, you're welcome. We have community resources designated to promote healing, safety, and empowerment. If you or someone you know needs support, please do not hesitate to reach out. Help is available 24/7 at the Root House. We know domestic violence or intimate partner violence is a cankerworm in our community, our society. Please tell someone to reach out. It was nice having you all. Have a wonderful day. And thank you all again once more.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Dr. Georgiana, Pastor Georgiana, have a nice day.